Paur, senior writer for RealTime Fantasy Sports, and welcome to another edition of the RealTime Fantasy Sports Show. On today's show, I'm going to give you 5 sleepers for week 5 of the fantasy football season. These are 5 guys you may want to consider playing this week, might not be on your radar, but I think they could have pretty good showings for fantasy teams. All right, so let's get right into it. My first sleeper is Nikhil Harry, wide receiver with the New England Patriots. So he scored his first touchdown of the season last week. His numbers haven't been great this year, but the positive is he does have at least 6 targets, 3 of 4 games, double-digit fantasy points, 2 of 3. Julian Edelman is struggling with drops as well, so someone has to catch the ball for Denver. I think it could be Harry this week, and he plays the Broncos, who have really struggled against the pass because of injury. They allow the 5th most fantasy points to receivers. We don't know who's going to be playing QB yet for New England, but even if it's Jared Stidham, I think Harry can do well in week 5 and could be a sneaky play for fantasy teams. All right, my next sleeper for week 5 of the fantasy season is Ernest Johnson, running back with Cleveland. So Johnson gets an expanded role in the offense because of the injury to Nick Chubb. He got his most work of the season last week, carried the ball 13 times for 95 yards. He looked really good in the game. I'm really kind of intrigued to see what Johnson can do in an expanded role. Plus, I don't think Hunt is healthy right now. He looked banged up in that game last week, so I think the Browns will continue to split work at one running back, and Johnson will get a lot of work in this run-heavy offense. So I think he could be a good player to look at as a flex option for week 5. My next sleeper is Greg Ward, wide receiver with the Philadelphia Eagles. So he did not have a great game last week, but the positive was he was targeted 7 times in the game. Got a lot of looks. He has 12 catches for 110 yards on 19 targets his last 2 games. The Eagles remain beat up at receiver. I know Alshon Jeffrey has a slight chance to return this week, but even if he's there, I think Ward gets a big workload. He plays Pittsburgh, who's very good against the run, but not as good against the pass. They allow the 9th most fantasy points to receivers. So if Philadelphia wants to move the ball offensively, I think it'll be through the air, and I think Ward will get a lot of looks again in week 5. All right, my next sleeper is Pittsburgh Steelers tight end Eric Ebron. So Ebron is really starting to heat up a little bit for the Steelers. He had his best showing his last time out. He caught 5 passes for 52 yards and a touchdown. He has 8 receptions for 95 yards and a touchdown on 12 targets his last 2 games. And he plays the Eagles this week. This might be his best showing of the season, in my opinion. The Eagles allow the 3rd most fantasy points to tight end. So I think Ebron will be targeted again in this game, and I think he could find the end zone. My last sleeper for week 5 is 49ers running back Jeff Wilson. So Wilson didn't get much work last week after having 15 touches the previous game. He ran 3 times for just 6 yards and caught a pass for 13 yards. But I think he'll get a bigger workload this week in a game the 49ers could run often. San Francisco plays Miami. That's a team that allows 125 rushing yards per game. The 49ers have also the Dolphins have also allowed 7 rushing touchdowns on the season. So I think Wilson might be a guy that finds the end zone this week, gets a lot more touches than the previous game. So if you're looking for maybe a bye week replacement or an injury fill-in, I would consider using Wilson in week 5. All right, those are 5 sleepers for the fantasy season in week 5. Hopefully you have a lot of success in all your games this week. This has been Jeff Paur for RealTime Fantasy Sports. Have a great day, everyone.